Well, here we are at the Hordern Pavilion, and what I love about this place is it draws the most interesting people to it for the Festival of Dreams, but not only the most interesting people, the great-great-grandchildren of the man that invented this wonderful place, Mr. Hordern himself. How are you, Sam?
Very good, Ben. Thank you.
Tell me, for you coming to the Festival of Dreams, you're very much into this spirituality world. Your grandfather built this, so there's a lot of memories and the essence of your family attached to this building.
Oh yeah, very much so. I'm very, it's a very important place for us, but I also like to combine my worlds. So it's actually very important to our family what goes on in this building. So to see positive things actually occur here is actually very much wish to support it. So.
Does the family have a lot to do with the running of a building like this, or is it more just the heritage of it now?
Not anymore. We're without a say in what happens here. That's why, I do wish to change that in the future. Yeah. But right now, I think just have the space where we can support when something positive does come in here. So yeah.
So walking through here today, you're sort of walking in your grandfather's or great-grandfather's footsteps. What's it like for you? Because I know you've walked your great-grandfather's footsteps from the minute he arrived in Sydney.
Oh, it's very powerful. I mean, I actually believe in communicating with him, and actually, because when they're not here anymore physically, you have to get mentorship spiritually. Yeah. Because sometimes they're the only ones that can teach you on a certain thing if the people aren't alive now who have the knowledge on it. So.
And you're a legacy family. I mean, in our world that we live in, we were talking about this a couple of years ago. You've got the Murdoch family, your family, the Hordern family. Your families created Sydney and left a template for the world, or for Sydney and Melbourne and all these other capital cities to grow. Why is it important that people remember those legacy families?
Well, there's a lot of power in the way they lived and the way they operated, which people don't get now. There was a lifestyle to what they built. And that lifestyle comes with a power of prosperity, of abundance. And my generation, without knowing how that is. I mean, you're very much aware of just the way you dress and the way you present yourself and the way you live and what that manifests with what you've manifested.
But you're a manifester yourself because you are very much into the family history and you're very much into helping people. So what I love about you is your story is you've gone out and spun it around and you work with these legacy families to recreate and connect with the past. So how do you do that?
Well, it's called legacy manifesting because most people get taught that you have to manifest from your own energy and your own mind, which is very exhausting. But people don't understand. We all, even people that don't actually seem famous, we have histories that we can connect into the energy and re-manifest that energy in the present day for what you're living. And it's a way of manifesting that is not only far more powerful, but is actually far easier because you're not just using your own mind and your own energy. It's a way of, and you do understand then where you came from as well.
So you do a lot of mentoring with families. You fly around the world, you deal with royalty. The younger generations, the Prince Williams of the world and the people that we're watching coming up the ranks, how do you work with someone like that in a world that is so driven now by social media and the media?
Well, they have to learn where they came from, and that is very important because instead of getting defined by what gets said out there. I mean, Prince William is learning that more and more as he is coming to his own fashion, but most royals out there, they don't even know why they have a palace, They're very separate from their history. And
for those of us who aren't from a legacy heritage family, what advice would you give to people like us? Do you think Ancestry.com is a great way of reconnecting with who you are as a person?
There is usually some stuff that comes up, but most is hidden. You usually have to find the relatives that are a bit shunned that have the stories. But what most people have to say, when you dig into your own family history, when I teach this to people, they come back and say, I didn't realize my great-great-grandfather was a duke or a prince, or I actually do come from royalty, or we founded this city. And you say, have you ever been to that city? And they say, well, no. And it's like, well, go to that city and you'll find your power,
And when you find that power, it's what you do with it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then you can then manifest because a lot of people don't know, but sort of even growing up, the pavilion and things wasn't talked about much in my family, so I didn't even really knew I came from that sort of legacy until I started digging. And the same is for most people is until they start digging, they don't know what they'll find.
And is that because they're ashamed of where they've come from, or is it that they're ashamed that they've lost it? The family, is that part of why they don't talk about stuff like that?
It can be a big responsibility to carry. And if you don't understand how to balance it with your own identity, to the family's identity, which is part of what I teach, you can get lost in one. And so they sometimes shun the family one just so they can try and find themselves.
So for someone watching today, our little interview, and they're from a family, a legacy or heritage family, and they want to reconnect, what's the best way to connect with you so that they can start this process?
I would say get in touch with you.
Get in touch with me, and then I'll get them in touch with you.
Yeah.
But and you've also got your audio book that you've produced and other things that I've listened to in the past.
I'm putting them together. Yeah.
Putting them all together.
Yeah.
So I mean, the whole idea is just to broaden it out just from the family's perspective, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we're chatting to Sam Hordern. I tell you what, I love doing interviews like this because, it's very rare in the world that we work in, particularly in media, that we get in contact with people whose great-grandfather, turned probably the first bit of dirt here to create this thing. I mean, when you look at it, last night we got locked out. This building is huge. It takes you nearly 25 minutes to walk around it. So it's a great legacy piece, and thanks for sharing your story.
No, my pleasure. Thank you, Bill.
That's great.